For 30 years, we've come.
In the July heat of every Texas summer, we've come.
To dance and sing,
To laugh and play,
to try new things and make new friends.
to find ourselves again.
We come to heal each other. We come to find hope.
Sounds like a great place. How do you get there?
Where do you sign up?
Well, you don't need a reservation and you can't buy a ticket.
It's kind of like joining a special club, but there's only one way to get in.
It's beautiful to me.
I was having continuous migraine. I just wake up in the morning and have a headache, and I go to bed and have a headache. And so my pediatrician scheduled me for a CT scan, and they said that they had found something, so they ordered an MRI.
I was like getting really pale and really tired, and then my mom was like, "Oh, is this something's wrong? Am I just sick?" So then after a while, like a day, like 2 days or so, they took me to the clinic, and in the clinic, they took like blood samples, and they said, "We need to come. Is everything okay?" So yeah, just let me retake the test. And then they took it and they said, "I'm sorry, but yeah, you're losing a lot of blood, or you don't have enough blood, and you had to go to the hospital." And on the way, I don't know, I guess we just praying. It wasn't something serious. And when we got to the emergency room, the doctor came and she said, "I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure, but I think your son has leukemia."
I had a fever. Well, I had a very achy leg. Well, I was at a fair, and I realized my leg started to hurt. It was hurting real bad. And my cousin Jade, she, kind of gave me a piggyback ride on her back. And then my Aunt Mandy, she sort of put me down. Her leg just hurting, nothing big. And I started to cry. And then Aunt Mandy called my mother and took me to the hospital, and that's when they told me I had leukemia. I was like, oh no. I think, I was like, is this that bad of a disease, or is this not that bad? Is this like really bad or not that bad?
She had a fever. She had a really high fever, almost 104 degrees. And I called my wife, said, "Hey, you need to come home. We need to take Emily to the pediatrician." The pediatrician felt her sides and said, "I need you guys to go get a sonogram." So we said, okay, it's a little different. When we came out, we kind of thought, well, something's going on. And the tech said, well, we think we see, something inside of her body. We see one tumor, but we think there might be two. So we walked back to the pediatrician's office. When we walked in there, our pediatrician was sobbing. She was just burst in tears, and she had a box of tissues there. And we took one look at her face. We kind of knew, there was something. This wasn't a fever.
Complete shock. And, there was, I think, denial at first. We couldn't believe that this was actually happening to us. Whenever you hear about these kind of things, you always think it happens to somebody else. You never think it's going to happen to you or your family. But, it was really, it took us at least a week or two just to kind of grasp what had happened. But it was definite shock, a lot of sadness. It's just taking your whole life and it's flipping it upside down, and it's something I think nobody could ever prepare for.
When they said tumor, I just kind of got scared, and then I really had no idea what it was, and then they explained it to me. I was still kind of scared, but I had no real concept of this is really going to happen. So I didn't really react till I actually understood that this was going to happen to me and I was going to have to deal with it.
For each of the different diagnoses, it's a little bit different picture, but primarily when they're first diagnosed is usually the kids really aren't feeling well at that point. It's a shock to the whole family, so the whole family's kind of in a state of shock. It's a whole lifestyle change for these families, whether it's for a few months for their treatment or whether it's for up to 3 years or even longer for the process. During the first few months, it's the hardest months for them because that's usually where the most intense chemo is.
Most of the time they're hooked up to the IV pole 24 hours a day. The entire time they're getting IV fluids, getting chemotherapy, which often makes them nauseous and sick. They're taking a lot of medications by mouth. We're in there all day long giving them medications and kind of not really allowing them to have a regular normal day. We're kind of running their day for them.
Definitely, there were several weeks, where Jude was in a lot of pain in the hospital. We were actually there for about 4 months, but for about a good 2 to 3 weeks, he was in a considerable amount of pain. Really, he wouldn't smile, he wouldn't talk to us. I mean, it was really probably one of our lowest points. And you could see Jude that went from, being a very, happy-go-lucky, very friendly kid to just suddenly, just laying there in the bed for weeks. And, not wanting to talk to anybody or smile or talk to us at all.
It hit her so hard. She couldn't walk. She just had to sit on the couch all day, really no emotion. It was very sad to see that. I remember them telling us the hardest part's gonna be the steroids because they're gonna make her act crazy. And I was like, I wish she was acting crazy right now because there was nothing there.
The shocking part for us was when we had to sign off on all the paperwork to start the chemotherapy. And you look at the forms, and each form says, here's the possible side effects. And every single form is death. Treatment, if treatment doesn't kill her, the cancer is. There's no good alternative. And so we're sitting back and we're checking off saying, she's gonna, if we don't do this, she's gonna die. If we don't do this, she's gonna die. And that's hard. Looking and saying, what are your good options? And there aren't any.
These kids go through this, and I can never ever say, I'm having a bad day.
I think there's a sense of I'm the only one. I'm the only one dealing with this. Nobody else knows what this is like. So there's a sense of loneliness and isolation in that. There's a sense of I've lost what I can do. Like the kid that was the pro soccer player or straight A student or the kid that never missed school, all of a sudden that's impacted. And then it's also, especially for kids that are school age or teenagers, it's a very physical illness. You see the effects of it, and so there's an automatic, I'm different than other people.
They think they said to us at that point, oh, by the way, there's a camp during the summer called Camp Esperanza, and it's also held here at Camp John Mark, and you think Emily might really enjoy it.
Child Life told us about it, and when we first heard about it, first we thought, well, maybe that's not really the right thing for Jude. And every time we kept coming back to the clinic, they said, oh, you really ought to think about camp. This is really a great experience.
Well, you got invited to this camp called Camp Esperanza, and it's for children with cancer. And then I figured out that there are a lot of other kids.
And I got to meet those kids and know that they had to go what I had to go through, and it made me feel that I wasn't the only one that had cancer.
I really had no idea because I've never been to camp before, like ever. But I was really nervous about it, and then I got there and I knew everything was gonna be okay.
Man, camp started in my living room, to be honest. I think it was an idea in somebody's head, and my first memories of camp were my parents sitting around in my living room with Peggy Sarton and Cheryl and Sandra Bridewell and some other folks just thinking about how camps can come together.
Camp got started through a number of people. Dr. Peggy Sarton was one of the key people, and she was one of the oncologists at the hospital. Sally Francis was the director of Child Life at Children's Medical Center. And there was a man named Robert Bridewell, and when he died, his family decided to donate a large sum of money to start to fund what would then become Camp Esperanza.
It was 8 people trying to figure out what's going to make sense, right? And then somebody had to get a t-shirt printed, somebody had to get name tags for everybody, somebody had to figure out logistics to get the kids from Children's to Sweeney.
So I think the first year there was about 60 campers, and I'm not sure how many staff. And there was 3 cabins, 3 boy cabins and 3 girl cabins.
Sweeney was small. Sweeney had a little lake called Lake Dealey, which was mostly weeds and a few bluegill, and had a very small pool. I mean, very small. you could throw a rock from the mess hall and hit the lake. The Band-Aid box was up the hill. In the middle was a chapel that served as our skit night place, and then there was a kind of a general campfire place where the counselors hung out at night. But it was tiny. So I just remember sort of making it happen. And it was just a bunch of creative people that loved kids, all kind of putting their best ideas forward to make camp happen.
The process starts almost right after camp ends in the summer. We kind of co-directors will take the month of August off usually, but we start working on putting together the budget, looking at all the personnel reviews we've gotten from the past camp, and just kind of closing shop on the previous camp. And then we start working with the steering committee in January and start planning all of the activities that we're going to be doing, getting our steering committee members in place to take charge of things like skit night and gatherings, and just really start to do the planning process. And then we meet all the way through until we come to camp. Doreen Bruner, she's our acquisitions chair. She works really hard on contacting various locations, various people who are willing to donate to camp, and get it all organized and set up and collected and brought down here so that it's here when we arrive. We love her. This year on steering committee, I think we are about 17 members. That's from the 2 co-directors. We have medical personnel, child life personnel, our personnel, and then each committee that has some activity that we do at camp. And then we also have Kevin Randalls, who sits as our Camp John Mark representative, which we added a couple years ago.
I was diagnosed in May 19th of 1991. It was Mother's Day that year, so that wasn't a great Mother's Day present, but from the little town of Pottsboro, and we went to our medical center that's in one of the surrounding towns, and they drew blood. It was, they said, you need to get him to Children's right now, and went to Children's Medical Center in Dallas and was admitted immediately. Was there for about a 2-week stint. I was diagnosed with ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, at the age of 5. And this year, I think May 19th this year, or actually November this year, will be 21 years in remission. So, Camp Esperanza is in July, typically the third or fourth week in July, and it's a great program, high energy program at a Children's Medical Center in Dallas. And they bring, it's one of the 3 or 4 camps that max out the facility. There's probably right at 140 campers, which is typically our max. And they bring a good returning core group of counselors that has been here for a long time. And, a high energy group. It has its own culture, has its own environment. It really is unique and unlike any of the other 10 summer camps that we do.
I would say camp is awesome because there's so many things to do. There's not just one thing to do. You have multiple choices of things to do.
Like what?
Well, you can go fishing, you can go swimming, you can go do other stuff. You can party, and it's just fun.
I think camp is amazing. So most kids, when they're diagnosed, a lot of times they lose their independence. So you go from doing most things yourself. Your parents aren't real involved in your every moment activities. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, there's a lot of things that they help with. They're there all the time, and they're helping you do about everything, taking your medications, sometimes even go in the bathroom and helping you walk and do all those things. And so camp means a lot of things, but I think one of them is knowing that you can do things that you thought you couldn't anymore. And so for us, we see the kids really struggling with losing that independence, and then they go to camp and figure out, well, I can climb this rock wall, I can go down a zip line, I can walk all over camp and I'm okay, I can go swimming. And you just see a whole new kid by the time they get home from camp.
The kids are able to come to camp and see other campers or other kids that are going through the same things they are. Maybe they're the only kid in their school or their town that has leukemia or has cancer, and to be able to see that and really gives them more hope, more peace, more ease, and so it's a good thing for both the medical teams and the campers to see.
We encourage our patients who are on therapy to go to camp, and we encourage the families to send them to camp because we can provide all these needs for them. We know that they may not be feeling their best. We know that they may need extra nausea medicine or depending on where they are in therapy, may need extra help getting around with wheelchairs and things like that. But we want to provide that for them because we know camp is such a huge thing. And even these kids, they may come not feeling well, but they leave camp a totally different person and at a totally different phase in their therapy. And it's a huge part to their recovery because it helps them get through the rest of it.
The facility itself is totally accessible. All of the activities are adapted to really any kind of special need that the campers have. So whether ambulatory, whether they walk, whether they roll, whatever it is, there's activities that they can do and that can be adapted for them. And that's anything from the horses to the challenge course to fishing, really anything any of the kids do, all of the kids can do, which is a really cool feature.
My favorite memory of camp is climbing that huge tower. Everything, I would say. Everything about it. The food, of course, the activities we do, rock climbing, swimming, everything about it is. This one makes it so, what's the word I'm looking for? Awesome.
They're nice, because, I mean, we're a whole cancer group, so, I mean, we're all the same. We know how it's like to go through chemo and all that, but they're great. Most people don't know how I feel when I was in the hospital or anything because they didn't go through the pain. But when I'm in camp, I know that at least I know people who went through the pain that I went, and for them to know what it feels like.
It made me feel like I wasn't the only one going through it, and other people had to do it too.
Something extra that camp did for Gage that, is pretty impressive, and I really didn't think about it until even today when we were driving up here. I was thinking he made friends with kids that had been through cancer and chemo, and made friends with all kinds of kids, but he also had made friends with kids that had prosthetic limbs, and saw them doing all the things that he was doing, and at camp he had both his legs. He was just doing his thing. So I think seeing those kids and that they weren't any different than him, and then him having to endure and go through that very surgery that they had done was more than anything I could have done or any doctor could have done for his mental well-being. It was amazing.
The best thing about camp is when you meet new friends, and when you meet new friends and when you get to know them better.
The Jason Jennings who said the worst thing is being in the hospital with cancer, but the best thing is you get to go to Camp Esperanza. There was one mom's quote when I was co-director where she said it's just like what heaven is. You can go into camp and not have any hair, not be missing an arm or a leg, or be swollen from the medications, and everybody sees you there, thinks you're beautiful.
And to see them come out to camp, and they're still receiving chemo and they're not feeling well, but they're like, I'm gonna ride that horse and I'm gonna swim and I'm gonna catch that fish. I mean, they're stronger than adults, I think. I truly do. I mean, it's amazing what they can come out and do at camp and have the time of their life.
One of the things that they benefit from is it boosts their confidence greatly. We see these kids after camp and we see them as just scared little kids coming in, and then they're bold warriors when they leave. And you almost have to say, oh, okay, slow down there, Sparky.
I think this camp really gives the Camp Esperanza campers a sense of accomplishment and elevates their courage. I see a lot of them come out changed. I think a lot of them probably live a very sheltered life when they are at home, when they're around the hospital. When they get away from that environment and they come out to camp, all that stuff's out the door. They are there to have a good time. They love all the other kids that they're interacting with. They realize these kids are there because they have the same type of situation that they've been growing up with, and they immediately have a connection.
One ingredient that Camp Esperanza has that I think is special, and I've really been able to see this because I have had the opportunity to view other camps and their setups. The volunteers that come back to Camp Esperanza that bring a certain enthusiasm, a certain love for one another, certainly a love for the kids and a love for what we're doing for them and their families is it's unique among all the camps at Camp John Mark, to tell you the truth. It's that kind of family feeling is something that has carried on for decades now.
The role of a camp counselor is just to have fun with the kids, to keep them safe, to have fun with them, to enjoy the week with them. So it's a very important role. They're role models for the kids. They oftentimes, these children, they're some of the most positive people in these children's lives.
Camp Esperanza is a family. It's a family. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of different medical populations and being a part of their camp experiences as well. But you have volunteers who've been there for 20 plus years, and they are just as committed to the kids as their brothers and sisters and their parents. And they look forward to camp all year long, just like the kids who get on the bus and get off the bus. They count down to that and look forward to seeing that kid that they got to impact this summer again next summer. So it's a family.
I think probably it has a lot to do with maybe how the disease affects the children. I can't address how it affects, burn camp kids or whatnot, but cancer has such a huge imprint on our lives, and we can't help but spill it onto the imprints on the children. And when they see, they don't necessarily understand what cancer is. What they understand is the look on their mother and dad's face when the doctor walks in and says, "You've got cancer." And I think that starts to really unravel what they understand about themselves. And when we can hopefully successfully get them on the road to recovery and healing and rediscovering their lives.
She wanted to go back immediately. She wanted to fill out the application and go again. She really did. She had such a great time. When she goes down to camp, she's not different. So she does get to be herself and just gets to be normal. And she loves the animals, she loves all the activities, and she loves all the stuff that you guys do down there.
These kids do come from an urban environment. They're tied to their iPhones and their iPads and their Nintendos and their Xboxes, and so this is really a time where all of that is removed from them. Sometimes they don't always like it, but by 24 hours in, they don't miss it one bit. And so they get to be outside, they get to be in nature, they get to see things that they don't normally get to see, like the stars at night covering the sky, or beautiful trees, or insects, or lizards, or sometimes snakes. We try to avoid that.
Many of the campers or their parents, when we get their evaluations back at the end of the summer, will mention how the child is different from when they came before camp, especially if it's their first year. They have more confidence. They're willing to integrate with people more. They're willing to talk to people. They're not as shy as they used to be. Sometimes, parents may be saying, "What did you do to my child?" They used to sit and read, now they're just running around talking. But I think what we give them back is their childhood.
At Camp Esperanza, it's all about being with a group of people that have already walked in your shoes or understand where you've come from. She's able to go to camp and talk about things with her friends at camp that she's not going to talk about with the rest of her friends, because they don't have a clue. You say cancer to a bunch of 7-year-olds, and maybe 2 or 3 of them know this. At Camp Esperanza, they all know about it, and they've all been through it, or they're still going through it. And she's able to have that bond with those kids that she's never going to have anywhere else.
Whenever I got home from camp, I felt a big difference. I felt like, wow, I saw all those kids that had cancer, and it just made a big difference in my life.
He was a completely different kid. I mean, I'd never seen that much energy in him for a long time. And when he came home, he had a big smile on his face. He had all sorts of stories to tell us about friends he had made and all the different things he had done at camp. I mean, even to this day, every now and then he'll just suddenly go back to camp and he'll tell us a story that he remembers from camp. But lots of great memories, and I think he really, really enjoyed himself.
He was a lot more outgoing. I thought he would be just sit in his wheelchair in one spot and maybe go peek through the door or come back. He actually started going outside in his wheelchair. He started doing other stuff with the kids in our neighborhood, just stuff that I didn't think he would even want to do, you know, like go outside, because of course I thought for a long time he was embarrassed because he was in a wheelchair. But he sprouted out of that. Decorian is a strong guy.
Most people think you can't pop wheelies in a wheelchair, so we found that out quick. And so, like, when they was like, how you do that? And I was like, when I went home, I had always did it. I got so good at it to where I can turn corners on a wheelie, back up, turn around. I got so good at it, so I just started doing that all the time. Riding around the house, popping wheelies, doing this, doing that.
The best thing about camp is that you just have a good time. I don't know how to explain it. There's so many different things. It's hard to explain. There's so many things, but it's just fun, and it's definitely a way to get kids to stop worrying from cancer. You just have a good time.
These kids, these boys want to be boys, and that is what we provide them. We give them the opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet, is what every one of these kids wants.
I think for them, they realize they're not the only one. You know, they're not the only one. I understand that when they're back at home within one single junior high or one single elementary school, that they might be the only one, and they probably feel like an outcast, or they feel like they're different. You know, they're losing their hair, they're not able to go outside or run or play like sometimes like the other kids. Well, they get out here at Camp Esperanza, and there's 140 of them, and they realize, hey, we're all like this, and we're all just the same and just as anyone else out there. And I think for them, they realize, look, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of kids like me, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool kids.
They will survive this and go on and graduate from high school, and they can go to college, and they can get married, and they can have children, do all those things that they always dreamed of.
You know, now I've done this long enough that you're starting to see campers that have come up, that have started when they're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now they're starting to be counselors, or they want to be the Camp John Mark staff, or they want to continue to be a part of it, and they want to spread the word about how much it impacted them and how much it affected them and changed them. And it's weird to say that you're thankful to have had cancer, not thankful to have gone through it, but you know, it really has given me such an opportunity to try to give back, to try to mentor, to try to give other campers hope, and to do this and to be at camp, and just really has been beneficial and made me who I am. So,
who I am, how I live my life, what I do, it's camp. And I've done camp since 1998. Be the person you are at camp every day, right? Take a little bit of this with you into your work, into your life.
Jumping off of that bus, I knew no one when. You took me by the hand and you led me in. You said it didn't matter how sick I'd been, I was gonna learn to laugh and live again.
I think it's just only gonna get better. Camp John Mark makes improvements all the time. I'd love to say that we won't have children with cancer 20 years from now, and certainly we've made great strides in that, but given that that's probably not going to be the case, I just think camp will continue to get better and better, and the spirit, even though 30 years is an incredibly long time, I've never seen the spirit of Camp Esperanza change. It's always been there, so I don't ever see that changing.
We got to keep growing and keep developing our programs, because we don't have an end in sight. And so the way that we can broaden our base, serve more kids per camp, bigger cabins or more cabins at the facility at Camp John Mark, and just continue to enrich and review and upgrade what we do.
I look forward to a camp where we can expand. We've already talked to Kevin. It's like, we need more cabins, because we've got more kids on the waiting list that could come. And our staffing, we're usually pretty good. We can fill staffing roles, so we could handle another cabin or two. But I also think it would really, really be nice to have more campers come back as counselors, and just to be able to spend that week and come back and see. It's interesting to hear from them that I didn't know all this was going on. You know, it was just a week of fun. Y'all work really hard, which is nice to know, but it's really good to see that they can go from being a camper to being that responsible adult that's now going to take over.
The future is definitely bright. I think you're starting to see all the campers, their experience has meant so much to them that they want to stay connected to camp. They want to be counselors. They want to continue to give back. They want others to feel that same sense of peace and family.
What camp will be is what it is now, a place where kids have a opportunity for a therapeutic camping experience, have the time of their lives for 1 week in beautiful Bosque County.
Staying in the sun cause I wanna have fun. Staying in the sun cause I wanna have fun. Staying in the sun cause I wanna have fun. Staying in the sun cause I wanna have fun.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza!
Camp Esperanza, happy 30th birthday!
Happy 30th birthday. I can't even talk.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Hello. Hello.
Happy birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy 30th, Camp Esperanza! Yes!
Happy birthday. Oh, God almighty.
Happy
30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
3, 2, 1. Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy birthday.
I don't remember what the question was.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy birthday, Camp Esperanza.
Happy 30th.
Happy 30th birthday, Camp Esperanza.
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 Woohoo!
Esperanza, Camp Esperanza, Camp Esperanza.